I would love to take a bit of a tangent on that topic because I went down a rabbit hole watching some of your videos on antimatter. And I mean, Fermilab was the hub for the production of antimatter for quite a while.
It was.
I saw that NASA said that the global estimate for the current rate of production of antimatter is 1 nanogram per year. Can you speak to how hard was it to make antimatter? And also, you did mention in a video that, if matter and antimatter meet, they produce a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
I think 20 grams of antimatter is equivalent to a 1 megaton nuclear warhead in terms of explosive energy. Yeah, so all of those questions together. So how hard is it to produce antimatter?
It's freaking hard. Okay. All right. So here's the deal. So at the time, until 2011, Fermilab was the most powerful anti-proton production facility on the planet. Every 2.3 seconds, we would smash 10 to the 13 protons into a target, and we would get out 10 to the 8th antiprotons. So basically, in order to get a single antiproton, we needed to smash 100,000 protons into material. So every 2.3 seconds, we would get of order 10 to the 8th antiprotons. And what we would do is we would collect them over the course of 12 hours or so. And we would get, in the end, we would have to collect them and cool them down and so forth, of order 10 to the 12th antiprotons every 12 to 24 hours. So 10 to the 12th sounds like a lot. It really does. That is a trillion. But you need to remember that a gram of antimatter is 10 to the 23 antiprotons. So that means over the course of a day, we were able to create something like 100 billionth of a gram. And so if we did that for a year, then that would be about a nanogram. So about a nanogram a year, give or take. That's a reasonable estimate. So a nanogram, 1 billionth of a gram. So that means at that rate, with that facility, it would take a billion years running with very little downtime to make a single gram of antimatter. If you combine 1 gram of antimatter and 1 gram of matter together, the energy release is equivalent to the combined Hiroshima and Nagasaki explosions. So that tells you, if you wanted a megaton, you need about 25 times more. So you would have to run for 25 billion years to get a megaton of explosive power.
Let me lay it all out, because I think it's pretty interesting, actually. This is a NASA estimate of how much it costs to produce antimatter. So looking at all the costs of the accelerator, everything combined together, to do enough for a 1 megaton antimatter bomb, if such a thing it would be even possible, on the order of 25 grams, like we mentioned, will cost about, based on the NASA estimate, $1.5 quadrillion. By the way, NASA wasn't talking about a bomb. It's just me adding. NASA was talking about the estimate, the cost of $62 to $63 trillion per gram of antihydrogen, actually, is what they're referring to. So compared, I was looking at estimates, the current best estimates, how much it takes to produce a 1 megaton nuclear warhead. Everything combined is about $10 to $50 million in the United States. So you're talking about difference in terms of a weapon with equal power, $50 million versus $1.5 quadrillion. To me, what's interesting, weapons is just one indication of this. One other possibility, and NASA also writes about this, is the use of antimatter in propulsion systems.
Right.
Just like you can use nuclear fission and maybe even nuclear fusion down the line. In propulsion systems, I saw that 1 gram can help get us to Alpha Centauri star system if we can get to 0.2 times the speed of light in 20 years. Meaning it would take us 20 years to get to Alpha Centauri. Is any of this a possible future, the use of antimatter for generation of energy? Because we should mention that it's extremely compact. It has the obvious downsides that it's extremely costly to produce. We don't know how to do that kind of scale.
Right.
The upside is it's compact.
It's very powerful. So the short answer is it is not a physics problem, it's an engineering problem. So I have people for that. Okay. Okay, but no.
Yeah.
The truth is that antimatter, if you are able to assemble it and store it, sure, it would be able to take that antimatter, heat up matter, and shoot it out the back of a rocket, and it would, do what rockets do. It would make us go quick, and that would be fine.
And we should mention the thing that you just mentioned is correct. One of the hugest challenges is the containment.
Oh,
Because
100%. Yeah.
antimatter, when it comes in contact with matter,
Right.
is a problem.
Right. So if you were unable to contain your trip to Alpha Centauri for even a millionth of a second, boom, that would not be good.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Star Trek where Scotty's saying, "Captain, the antimatter pods are about, look, we're losing containment. It's going to blow," and that's exactly what would happen. So the short answer is yes, antimatter, as in principle, we could make and use as a source of energy, but there are probably far less expensive sources of energy. Um, it depends on what you need to do. The Voyager probes are still chugging along with plutonium. Now they're running out of energy at this point, but we could, presumably do a somewhat better job if we needed to. So I like the idea of antimatter, but the reality is the danger, not the obvious danger of weapons, but the danger of if you wanted to be in a ship run by antimatter, if it ever got loose, well, you would never know it. That would be that.
The reason I find this kind of inspiring is antimatter is in the space of physics that has a lot of mysteries. There's a lot of exploration to be done. And so this kind of connection to energy means that if we have a bunch of breakthroughs on the antimatter side, that might lead to a better propulsion system, better energy generation systems.
In principle.
There's some combination of engineering here, but there's some combination of understanding the fundamental physics.
I mean, we know how to do this. We know you take energy, you make antimatter. You have to contain it, you have to store it, you have to do all the hard things. But I would be shocked if there was some new addition to the
Yeah.
theory that made antimatter production easier.
Interesting. So we know how to produce antimatter with accelerators. You're saying there's not breakthroughs in physics that could lead to different mechanisms for the generation of antimatter.
You have to concentrate energy. That's it. If there's another way to concentrate energy, that would work too.
And our best knowledge of how to concentrate energy is the accelerator.
And remember, we're talking concentrating it into volumes the size of a proton. I mean, if you concentrate it to the size of your thumb, well, then, it's really the density that matters, the local density. And so when you smash two protons together, all of that's occurring in a tiny, tiny volume. So it's the local density of energy that matters. If you had a lot of energy in a thimble or something, it's probably not dense enough. It really has to be in close proximity for that to happen. And then when it does, it's okay. So if there's another way, we know how to do it to make that density thing with accelerators. If someone has a bright idea on how to make highly dense energy, then yeah, making antimatter is a piece of cake. But that's the crux: concentrated energy.
Yeah, and how to do so in a cost-efficient manner, not trillions of dollars.
Well, yeah.